And one, we are a go. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, guys. This is Sir John with Breaking the Mold. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about conspiracy theories. So, what do you guys have on conspiracy theories? Any ideas?
First of all, do we believe? Well, I guess the theory, so I guess it's a possibility. But do we believe this generation can handle conspiracy theories or things that are or wasn't told to us prior? Because it seems like if people get any type of inkling of new information, they immediately go into deflect mode. No, it's not true. No, obviously, no, no, no. Because I wasn't taught that before. But I mean, what all have we not been taught before that we had to learn backhand? Like, that happens.
That's
Like,
true.
for one, and I know I'm gonna get some flag about this, so and I really don't care. But
What's your conspiracy
I'm
theory?
one I'm one of the flat earthers. I'm a
Really?
firm believer in flat earth.
Okay.
Uh and let me further clarify, I do believe do believe the earth is dome shaped, which is what gives it its round esque view. But I do believe that the earth is flat. Reason being, I've become and am very spiritual. I'm a firm believer in Christ. I'm a firm believer in the Bible. I don't know
Amen.
about you all, but in the Bible, God,
Blessings.
Yahweh referred to the earth. Well, he said, I forget which passage, so I'm paraphrase, but he said in the passage, the four corners of the earth. I don't know about you all, but I took math and geometry. Ain't no circular shape, be it spherical, circular, anything along that manner. Ain't no circle has corners to it. The only thing that would have corners to would be something that's flat, that is more cubesque. There's an actual term for that do not know, but that is more cubesque. And I do believe what gives it the spherical feel is the overarching dome. Because how I don't know if you all paid attention, but when rockets take off or spaceships, they always start off straight, but then for some reason when they hit a certain point, they always begin to curve inwards. Always, always. I didn't peep this until later. And I'm like, if the Earth is round or going straight up, it'll be a quicker exit point, in my opinion. In my opinion, if it were to go straight out, but if it's curving, isn't there a reason why it's curving? Isn't there a reason why they're all at least always leaning to a certain point? And people say, oh, due to the gravitational pull and the rotation, it's round because we can't see from this end of the world to this end of the world. But at the same time, everything has a certain range of perception. We can only see so far. So, for example, here in Farmington, though it's very hilly, from a far view, I can see a good part of Potosi, Bonterre, but it's only up to a certain extent. I
Mm-hmm.
can't see St. Louis from here, though it's still in the same damn near straight line, but I can't see it only because my eyes can't see that far. But I would say all this say again, I'm a firm believer in flat Earth. I remember when Kyrie Irving said it, the basketball player, he received heavy flack. How could you, how could you say that? You're a prolific player, a very influential player. You shouldn't be saying things like that. The man should be entitled to his opinion, and whether it's right or wrong, because we don't know, but whether it's right or wrong, it should be taken as a possibility of an idea. We kind of bank on the fact that it wasn't taught in school or in science, but how much did we learn that our school books lied to us after the fact? When it comes to history, we found out history isn't all what they told it to be. It's told from a perspective, but it's not what told. It's not all told from how it was back in middle school, high school. We find new things differently as we age up through life. So that's why I'm at. That's one of the theories I believe in. I'm a firm believer in, and that is a hill I am more than willing to die on.
So I guess I have a question about that. Um, what's your thoughts about like landing on the moon or satellites that we have? How do you think that?
Oh yeah, we getting deeper, baby.
Alrighty, baby.
I believe landing. Woo, boy, I believe the landing on the moon was staged for multiple reasons. One of the things I heard of and researched a couple years ago was that on the moon, I believe there's no.
Atmosphere?
Was it a shadow or was it a wind flow?
Oh,
And then one of the
flag.
original videos, the flag was moving. There's no wind flow on the moon. How is the flag moving? And then on top of that, if there is, well, I believe it does have a gravitational pull, so I can't say that. But yeah, there's no wind flow. I do believe it was staged. Plus, I believe I'm gonna relate this to this. It seems so staged for the fact is, if we was able to properly record from the moon to NASA back was the 60s, if we were able to have a recording stretch from that far then, the connection stretch from that far then, why the hell if we go 2 feet outside our house we lose our phone connection? Why? If we had the technology back in the 60s to connect us all the way to the fucking moon, let me not cuss. Let me change my language. If we had the technology to connect us all the way to the moon back in the 60s, we are now in 2022, 62, well, I don't know the exact years, but about 62 years later. How do we not have the connection just to connect from outside my door to the router or across the city where, I'll say downtown St. Louis to about Hazelwood without there being some type of connection interruption? How? But at the 60s, we were able to connect all the way to what they say was the moon landing. But yeah, I believe it was staged.
So it was staged.
I believe they sent satellites in search. I believe the biggest thing about, and this is biblically, the biggest thing about humans is we try to find the entry point to God and we try to equivalent ourselves to God. When it came, this is finna get very, very religious. When it came to the whole thing of Adam and Eve eating of the fruit they ate of was the knowledge of good and evil, or they ate of the fruit of knowledge. Once we ate of the fruit of knowledge, we began the idea of, okay, we can become God-like. If we think too hard or think too much, or we think to know too much, we can become God-like. And what we're searching for, in my personal opinion, is we're searching for the tree of life, which would bring us immortality, which would, I mean, God is immortal, so that'll be the pinnacle of, I guess you could say, human evolution. That'll be that pinnacle, and then on top of that, we're searching for the entry point unto heaven. For whatever the reason, that can vary depending on the day or what the person's personal interest is. But anything to get us as close to God as possible, we're searching for. So I believe they are attempting to send satellites to, number one, find the edge or the end point of the dome, and number two, to try to find any entry point into a heaven or a outside spiritual realm as much as possible. I believe they're attempting. I don't believe it's exactly how they describe it to be, but I do believe that they are attempting to reach those heights, per se.
So for you, the premise of all this is basically based off the Bible, correct?
Yes, I'm a big spiritual person. I believe the Bible is our history book, especially me being an Israelite man. The Bible is our history book. All we gotta do is sit down and read it. But that's my personal take on it.
So I guess I'll go further. What about like Google Earth? When you look at Google Earth, you have this full spherical image. How do you think they like created that?
The lens has a dome thing. Even our
Like a
camera
fish
lens,
lens?
every lens has a dome outer layer too.
Mhm.
And I believe that's to round out and give a better perspective of what the overall view is. We can see more through it that way. That's how I see it. Now, could I be wrong? Absolutely. But this is what I personally believe. We can see more because it rounds out and it broadens our view.
So is
That's
it a
why going Google
flat
Earth.
circle? Is it like a flat circle, or is it a
On
square?
most cameras, there is a flat lens and then there's a dome lens and then there's covered by another flat lens. If I look at this camera now, I can kind of see that with different. Though this camera is extremely tiny, but I
I mean,
believe
like
it's
the
to
shape of the
broaden our
Earth,
overall.
like it's shape of the Earth. Is
Oh.
it like is it
So I
flat and
believe
circular, or
I believe it's flat and cube shaped, and from there, the domes kind of come to a round triangle point. If it's a square, it's going to come this way and then this way, all going into that those excuse me for stuttering, those four sides. That's what I believe.
so then I guess what about other planets? Do you okay? I guess then I ask, do you think have we seen like Mars for real, or is that edited, or like when they had Pluto and other Saturn and all that? Is that like fake in your opinion, or do you think we saw those?
In my opinion, yes, because the biggest thing that I think I don't want to make this political either. The biggest thing the government has realized is, or I guess the people of power have realized is, if we give them enough to where it opens their minds and we control the narrative, they're going to go along with that. And
that's true. That's true.
I believe, especially if once we hear NASA, as soon as we hear NASA, first thing that comes to our mind is intelligence. No matter what is intelligence, these people that work for NASA are intelligent. I'm not saying that they're not, but since we go off of credibility so much, if a NASA engineer or a NASA worker is telling me there's planets out there, eons, stars, whatever, that's obviously true because they have a certain level of standard and credibility to their name. And I believe when we get told that, it's believable, because for so long, when a person didn't have a certain amount of credibility, hell, way back in the day, was it Galileo tried to say that there were stars and stuff out there, and people didn't believe it because he didn't have the credibility behind his name. But as soon as he reached a certain echelon or a certain tier of class, okay, what he's saying is true. Now we don't know that because that was back in like the 1300s, maybe even earlier. We don't know that, but I mean, it opens up the idea, and as long as they can control the narrative, they can control the output of what we are going to believe. Now, could there be planets again? I could be entirely wrong. There's a strong possibility, but at the same time,
That's where you stand.
just like the moon. If we went to the moon in the 60s, why haven't we been back? Or if Mars is our closest sister planet, I believe it is, our little sister planet, why haven't we stepped foot on Mars? If they are supposed to be the terrain that is the most like Earth, why haven't we stepped foot on Mars yet? And it's been 62 years. Technology has soared since the 60s. Why haven't we been back to the moon? Why haven't we proved that this belief is wrong? Why haven't we had actual proof of people stepping foot besides the people that they said step foot? Where's the current what's what I'm gonna use? Where was the current evidence of today? Where is it at?
Right. Yeah, no, that's really fascinating, and it's true. I mean, the last time we were actually on the moon, I guess the last manned mission to the moon was in the 70s.
Mhm.
So I mean, it does beg the question, what the hell is going on? Which, I think it's your theory is really interesting, Gus, because I've never actually thought that much about flat Earth. But this is for people who are looking to go deeper. If you think about how much we're in this matrix, about how much, how prevalent you think mind control is, or control by the government, it is a perfectly possible theory, in my opinion. I mean, it really opens up the bounds of so much possibility that could be out there outside of just the physical eye of what really could be going on, which kind of ties into my theory, but we'll talk about that later. It's a really fascinating theory.
For me, I think it's interesting. I guess my biggest gripe and question about it would be like when we see. So I used to play with telescopes a lot. So when I would look at a planet, like if you look at Saturn, it's the easiest one to see. you can see that it's like
From Earth?
you can see Saturn from Earth with a good enough with a $150 telescope.
I was about to say, what you looking at, bro?
Yeah, it's like it's now with a relatively cheap telescope, and unlike like around fall, you can see it with some binoculars. Like, okay,
Wow.
yes. I mean, them planets big as fuck. And you can, if like I said, with a $150, $200 telescope, you can see little planet, all the little planets around it, and then you can see their shape. So for me, I've always kind of had that indication from that, and I think that you brought Galilei up. Homeboy, his whole thing was proving that the planets revolve around the sun rather than the sun revolving around Earth.
Right.
So
yeah.
I can see where you're coming from, like, on those being the premises based on the religion, but I kind of just wonder, as we understand and explore more, maybe there is other ways out there. But I respect
because
it.
my thing is, who in the hell has that long of a damn measuring stick to measure us to the closest star? And the closest star is hella far away. Who has that measuring stick? And I believe, and again, I could be wrong, the stars that we do see, in my eyes, is the peak of I guess you could say, a metaphysical world outside of our human realm. Just like the Aurora Borealis. People wonder, okay, how is this here? Of course, there's science behind it. And I'm not going to say I'm the strongest believer in science, but I mean, if it is, it is. And whatever floats your boat, rock with it, please. But at the same time, my thing is, it's a phenomenon for a reason. I believe, me and my mom have talked about, and again, I'm spiritual. I believe the Aurora Borealis is the drapery of God. And what we're seeing from our eyes is the ending tassels, the ending drape to whatever gown that he wears, and that's the trace, the path that is carving out as he's walking. Because it's also said the earth is God's footstool. I don't know about y'all, but I can't rest my feet on nothing circular. Again, could just be me. I could be physically handicapped to certain things, but I can't rest my feet on anything circular. At least not for long. And then, what was something else I had? Again, with the whole,
a good ottoman.
With the whole telescope thing. The whole point of the telescope was supposed to be a enhanced version of our eye. Our eye has dome lenses in them. It starts off flat. It domes inward, flat, domes outward, so that we can get that broader view. And that's how most telescopes, cameras, I believe even flashlights, are built to mimic that same pattern, just to enhance and further define whatever it is that we're looking at, especially from a further range. But again, that's just me. That's my take. Those are my theories. Again, just like Brennan, just like Wiz, I got more. But
he's just talking about it. Shit, we're not attacking or anything like that. I think that's a really interesting. It's interesting to see how somebody thinks about like the process of that, because we all have heard about the theory and we all have our own personal opinions. Fair enough, whatever it might be. But to understand, where the logic and reasons coming in to have that, that's good discourse. I'd say one more question I have on that is, so do you think, if that's the case, is there other planets with particular life that could be possible, or is God focusing solely on Earth and everything else is more of like an simulation or an illusion to what we're seeing?
Oh my! Like I said, I don't want to take up the whole point of me just ranting about my theories, because it goes deeper. Because with that, I would say
it does.
I believe it is just Earth. I believe that we're God's focus, and I believe from that, however we get the idea of other planets is, this isn't the first variation of Earth, at least not that I believe. Because I'm a firm believer. Could be wrong, because again, I'm not the biggest science guy. I don't believe in fossils. I believe in creatures, but I don't necessarily believe in the whole thing of the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs died off, and then now we are where we are. I don't. I believe from the idea of, there was probably once a world where dinosaurs or reptilian creatures presided over, but that was Earths ago. This isn't the first render of Earth, and it won't be the last render of Earth, in my personal opinion. I do believe in like cyclopses and like the mythology creatures and all that, because there's biblical evidence and mentions of these things in the Bible. Giants in the Bible. Goliath was of a race of giants. So I mean, all these things I believe that they call
Dragons.
myths. Yeah, all this stuff was real. All this stuff that I believe they call myths, I believe is the
Sure.
actual reality of what was the one of the things I see behind it is for the spiritual theorists out there. I believe that stuff is locked away. I don't believe is extinct because our human process now can't handle that. Hell, if we see
You
something
damn straight.
out of
You
normal
go,
with
boy.
humans, if we see something out of normal with humans, we lose our shit. So if
Yeah.
we were to see a flying horse, we couldn't handle that. We
Yeah.
couldn't do it. I believe the whole point of what science does now is it tries to replicate those things in the past and make it their own. Because they've been testing pigs with wings. They've been testing cross gene manipulation. And I believe all this, just like anything else, is the attempt to try to get as godlike as possible.
That's deep. Everything we are doing, the premise of science is really to break down and understand and materialize what God is, right? Man trying to emulate it, us trying to understand it, and maybe some things can be understood. So that's a good point. I also really think it's a good point about what you said about the moon. Like, it is interesting. It's been 30 years and we have not attempted a moon mission point blank period.
50.
50, yeah, 50. What did I say, 30?
1972. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't give them that much credit, John.
That is hella. That's damn near a whole life, a generation. So I find it interesting. Maybe, but here's a conspiracy. Well, I'm not gonna get into this as a conspiracy theory, but I know
Go
I
ahead.
have heard about people talking about there could be bases, military bases. I know that the Soviets tried to set that up. So maybe the reason why is they are on the moon. It's just it doesn't serve any public interest to let us know what further operations they're doing on the moon.
Which could be. I'm not going to deny that whatsoever because, as we know, the government has a lot. Yeah, that was the whole point of the whole storm of Area 51. Was it 2-3 years ago? The whole point of that was let's see what the government's hiding. People talk about bringing aliens on with them, all types of crazy kooky shit. So I mean, I don't put it past that whatsoever because the government tries to hide everything and nothing all at the same time.
I agree.
All right.
Brittany, you want to talk about yours?
Sure. I guess I'll go in, and I'll leave this as pretty. I'll leave it as pretty vague. But personally, I guess my conspiracy theory is there is no hell. Hell from the existence that we think hell is, which is damnation below us or whatnot, does not exist. And you know, some people might say it's a conspiracy theory. Other people will say it's bullshit. Some people might say it's a fact. But you know, I personally, don't believe that there really is a hell. I think hell, quite frankly, like a lot of things in human creation, man-made creations, was created based on fear. It was created within a religion, many different religions, really, to keep people sort of in a state of fear or to keep people in a state of obedience to subscribe to a particular religion or to a particular belief system or faith. So that's what religions are ultimately. And through doing that, what you do is, you know, we've talked about on this show, we've talked about consciousness and what that is and how wide that is, and everybody's got one, and you know, a lot of things around us have one too. I think what it does is it limits your consciousness to stay in that state of fear so that you're not truly able to live and be who you truly are, which is your inauthentic self. Everything that you feel, everything that you think, everything that you believe, that's your true authentic self under all the superficiality that the society presses on you. And so I just feel that hell is just one of those mechanisms just to scare people into subscribing to a religion and to not doing things that, you know, maybe they wanted to explore or maybe they don't want to explore, but to keep them from doing those. It's a really good fear tactic. It's a great fear tool. I guess what I will say is I believe there's so much more that exists out there than we could ever believe. I mean, I'm to the point of, you know, dimensions, parallel realities, all that stuff. I think it exists. Because I don't believe that our world is so cut and dry to where it's just us and just our intelligence. And when we die, we're just going up to be a spirit. No, I think that the spiritual realm is so much more complex and so much more vast. And for those watchers or viewers that anything about energy is wide and everywhere. And if you know anything about the human eye can only catch about 2.5 to about 5% than what's in front of them. So think about that other 95% of what's existing. That's pure energy, and this case is non-physical, which you could also say is metaphysical. So it's very fascinating, the concept of hell. What I will say is, what I think does exist is, I guess the preface that is knowing everything vibrates at a vibration. Some stuff is either high in vibration, which is the stuff that you want, like emotions. You could take emotions, for instance, joy, happiness, peace. Those are higher emotions. People who are usually in that state of emotion are usually much lighter people. They maybe look lighter, or they look brighter, or even yourself, when you experience those emotions, you feel better. There's also lower vibrational emotions, which, anger, sadness, shame is a really big one, guilt, rejection, all those kind of the worst. Those are lower vibrational emotions. So you emit a lower vibration. So I feel that is the same way in the spiritual realm, or quote unquote, when you die, things are vibrating at a vibration. Personally, I think that when you die, your spirit or your soul is supposed to go back up into the spiritual realm. You do something called a life review, where you review your life here on earth, whether it was a good life, whether it was a bad life, whether you had quote unquote sin, or whether you did things that you weren't supposed to or whatnot. And you go through a phase, and you get to decide whether you decide whether you want to come back down and experience another incarnation, or whether you would like to stay up in the spiritual realm for a period of time and either be a spirit guide, or or whether you would like to come back down and just experience Earth again. Because I've heard and had some experience communicating with the spiritual realm and whatnot, and Earth is the biggest party.
It's the biggest.
It's the biggest party in the universe.
Do you? So you believe in reincarnation? Is what you're saying?
I was going to ask that same thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I definitely believe in reincarnation, and even deeper than that, and I think we briefly touched on this, is understanding that in our life, in our world, everybody plays a role, and there's everything's got polarity. So there's what we see as good and what we see as bad. Now, those are both human words that we've attributed to things that we, as a society, have deemed good and bad. Murder, rape, all that stuff, bad. All these other things is good or whatnot. We know what that is objectively. But I do feel as if before you incarnate here on Earth, there are things that you, on a deeper level, on a soul level, have decided that you are going to experience here. And there's great things. You might say, okay, well, when I go back down to Earth, I want to have a family of 5, and I want to get married when I'm in my 30s, and I want to do this, that, and the other. You might say, I don't want to have kids. I want to experience poverty. I want to experience, getting shot or getting hurt, because ultimately we see these things as good or bad. We see these things as, positive, negative. Really, it's beneficial things that you want, and there's non-beneficial things that you want. But on a soul level, there's souls that actually want to experience things on Earth. As a human, from a human perspective, we can't possibly conceive why on a soul level we would want to experience something that we deem as bad. But on a deeper level, there is growth that comes from that. So that ultimately is my view when there's people that come down here and do mass killings, in a sense, or commit some other sort of sin that is so terrible in that sense. I don't think that their soul, quote unquote, is sent to damnation because they necessarily did that. I do feel that, when they die, they have a review of that particular instance, and there is some growth and some learning that comes from that. And ultimately, another thing I want to share is that, you know, the same way that we say that, well, that I say that people come down here to experience things, I also think that applies to death. Um, you know, whether that's how you die or even when you die, I think that there's a lot of things in our life that are pre-planned. And that's not to say that when we're down here, that there's not free will. So, what you plan to do on a soul level as a human could get interrupted depending on the decisions that you make. I'm not saying that. But I just feel that on a deeper level, there's so much more to the concept and the meaning of life. And I fear that well, not fear, but I've noticed that, more fear-based tactics like saying you're going to hell if you don't have the set of standards that you follow has just objectified people, put them into a lane, and kept them in a state of fear to where they can't fully get to these places of a full state of being. I guess I'll leave it there.
So I asked a question. Karma. What's your thoughts on that? Because karma is kind of like you do something bad to somebody.
Oh, I think it's real.
Within your lifetime, you deal with it. So.
Well, I think what goes around comes around in general. So we say karma, but once again, we attribute karma to being negative. And I think karma also applies to past lives. So once again, the whole idea of reincarnation, you have multiple lives. I do believe in the concept of older souls. I think, of course, everybody's got a soul. So on a soul level, well, most people have. But on a
except
soul
Ginger,
level,
nobody cares about them.
right? Thank you. Somebody had to say it. But on a soul level, I do believe that some souls are older. They've been doing this earth thing for a while. They're kind of coming down here. That maybe the more witty, philosophical people, they're here for a reason, a purpose, and that's the only reason why they're here. And then there's other souls that are maybe a little bit younger, who are a little bit newer, who just want to come down here and enjoy Earth, which goes into the whole spiritual awakening piece. I don't want to talk about that.
So
that's a whole different.
That's interesting.
Topic.
That's interesting to think about, because now, to a certain degree, you can see why depression will be a thing, or a midlife crisis will be a thing that we experience. Is because I always wonder, why is a person depressed? Why does a person get depressed? They're living life, good or bad. I mean, this is how it's turning out. But at the same time, of how you described it, the life is not going on how they predetermined it. But beforehand, I can see the soul isn't happy to where how things are playing out, because there's nothing along the lines of how it had it planned. So I think that's a real interesting taking space with the whole karma thing too, because like Bud said, we always attribute it to being something bad. But I believe also that something that it could help explain would be the whole thing of a generational curse. Because people say, my ancestors did this, so now I'm paying the price for what they did. And really, in reality, honestly, you could be paying the price that you did just in a different lifetime. Something
Definitely.
that you committed a heinous crime, anything along that nature, and now you're paying the price second hand. I believe also even though I myself am not the biggest believer in reincarnation, I understand it, and I can't get with the idea of it, because it is an interesting concept. And I believe to that degree, I believe it goes past even of a want to go down here. It's now okay, you died, but you gonna pay for what you did, so I'm gonna send you back down there, and you gonna feel exactly what you put other people through in your lifetime and or lifetimes.
Now
So it's a real
dropping the soap and getting gangbangs,
That's one of the fascinating things. I will just say one thing about reincarnation. One of the things I've learned or I theorize is that when we have childbirth death, so babies that die in the womb, or they come out and they're stillborn or whatever, those are usually souls that maybe have never experienced an earthly incarnation and just want to see what it's like to die. Well, I mean, like death, for a lot of people, is just a part of life. We see it once again as a society. We see death as bad, or we put fear around death. We're scared as hell to die. I mean, but really, it's just you're born and this physical vessel dies. It's same thing about the concept of time. Time doesn't really exist. It's man-made. There's really polarity with darkness and light, and so we've created it in a society. We've given different things time, but really, there's only the present moment, and your physical body, which was not made to live forever, it ages over time. Age is a man-made concept. I mean, everything essentially is a man-made concept. We've given it meaning in our society. But if you strip all that away and you just go down to just the core essence of who you are, who you're supposed to be, and really who you truly are, underneath all of that, it's your sheer essence. And one of the things that I've studied is learning about, well, why is it that if you had such a terrible life, or when I say terrible, that's usually you did some fucked up shit, that you aren't castigated and sent back down to go correct that shit? Like, why is it that somebody who maybe could have killed people gets the chance or gets the opportunity to potentially stay in the spiritual realm, when really they should have to reincarnate and suffer? That's how we see it. We see it as suffering. But once again, when you look at things from a perspective of everybody plays a role in society, then you learn to accept even the worst shit as having a role or playing a role in this society. And I do believe karmically that person or that person's soul will have to answer to that, because you understand when you look at things as operating vibrationally, lower vibration, higher vibration. Anything you did that was so bad will keep you in a low vibration probably for the rest of your life. You killed somebody conscious, that's keeping you in a state of paranoia, that's keeping you in a state of potentially anger, resentment, shame, guilt, all lower vibration. So it's keeping you in that lower wavelength. And if you look at things as we attract like. So if you're at a lower vibration and that's where your soul is, that's where your soul resonates, that's where your soul dwells, then those are the experiences that you are bringing towards yourself. So, I mean,
so you are saying there is good and evil. You're just saying.
I'm not saying good and evil. No, that's a man-made concept.
So
I think there's beneficial and non-beneficial.
So killing children, you would say, could be both.
It's terrible.
But you're saying on an ethereal plane, it doesn't matter, correct?
On a what plane?
The ethereal, like the plane of the souls, where the souls
etheric?
Are coming in. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a lower vibrational thing to do. It's awful. It's terrible. Let me just say that. Let me objectively say that. I don't like saying lower vibration. Yes, it's awful to do, and you should never do that. And anybody who does that, of course, on Earth should pay a price. But I'm just saying, I'm speaking more just like on a deeper level.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. So I'm saying, like, doing action. So I just want to get an understanding. What you're saying with this is, like, we're a video game, right? And our souls are living in this other existence, like a lobby or whatever. And so they decide, hey, I wanna live life as Napoleon, and I wanna fucking conquer France, whatever.
Like a video game, man.
Yeah, like a fucking video game. So if he does actions that kills a lot of, let's say, children again, on the spiritual level of things, that's not either moral or immoral. It's just a part of the game. Is that, and the karma, like, I guess that's kind of my whole thing with it. Like,
so that I have a question too to piggyback off that. Before you get into your explanation, so with that, could you also say there is there overall life, or do we all just live? See, I'm not gonna say if we can choose, but we all have the choice of how life plays out. Are we all just living our own individual lives, or is there actual life that we all dwell in? Because in the show Supernatural, in their heaven, in the show, each person had their own personal heaven. So in the manner of speaking, are we all playing our own personal life, our own personal game, and just doing it differently each time? Or is there actual overall realm or a hub we all dwell in that how we strive to it, or we just make it happen?
Well, I mean, So that's an interesting question. I don't. I guess we can go really into the spiritual realm probably on another episode for sure.
Yeah.
It's a really
Yeah, for
fascinating
sure. So
concept.
stay tuned.
I look at it. I mean, I look at it almost as, imagine we're playing Grand Theft Auto and we're choosing our characters, or even wrestling, or any game where you can choose and create who you want to be. I do believe on a deep level you can choose who you want to be, what family you want to be born into, what you want to accomplish. There's certain things that on a spiritual level you don't come up with, but it's up to the life. It's up to the actual experiences. But certain things you do choose that will happen to you. Like maybe you choose that you'll never have kids, or maybe you choose that, you will, or whatever it might be. And I do feel, not even feel at this point, hell no, but now that we are in this physical incarnation, that we are the co-creators of our life. We create our own realities based off of our mind, based off of our thoughts, based off of your vibration, where you dwell. I mean, people who are on a lower vibration will probably attract lower vibrational things, which is things usually you don't want. It's people you usually don't want, people who dwell at that same vibration with you. Same thing goes for higher. And essentially, one of the things I really didn't talk about when we talked about hell and damnation was, my theory on what does happen. I think for some people who as humans had tough lives. And when I say tough, maybe they were drug addicts, maybe they were alcoholics, perhaps murderers, killers, whatever it might have been, who have died and don't necessarily return to the spiritual realm, but remain here on the physical plane with us. I think that's where you get the concept of ghosts. I think you also get from that people who just died, or people who had a sudden death and they don't realize that they've died because they were so attached to their physical incarnation. I mean, I feel that in and of itself, and maybe we don't see it this way, but I feel that a lot of beings who are stuck on Earth but don't have a physical incarnation, they are subjected to lower vibrations. So that's lower vibrational emotions, feelings. That in and of itself serves as a hell. I mean,
agree with that. Though mine is more of a spiritual reason, because I believe we all heard of the rapture at some point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe the whole point of ghosts, I do believe ghosts are real. I do believe paranormal spirits are real. But I do believe, from my
they
approach,
damn sure are real.
They are the dead, but the whole thing is, we always think as soon as we die, we immediately go to the judgment. I do believe we get judged, but we're all waiting for the end time when God comes for the rapture. So until that point comes, every dead being or soul is here. They are here. We can't see them. We can't experience them. We can't experience them face to face physically, but I do believe they are present. And I do believe they are just waiting for the end time to come. Cause I forget which part of the Bible I read this in, but they were talking about spirits walking the earth freely. They were speaking of them, and who would these spirits be besides from my point, from the dead that have been here before, the dead that are just waiting. They've been judged. They're just waiting for the end time to actually come. That's why I believe we get those premonitions, that we do get those occurrences. We have a door closed, we come back home, the door's open. If we believe we're hearing things, I do believe some are, here to troll a little bit, have a little fun while they are still here. I do believe some are actually here to, if they died harmful, that's how they're going to continue to live their life in that harmful, malevolent point. I do believe that also we have some that are actually trying to protect us to a certain degree.
Well, that gets you to the difference of what are earthbound spirits and what are spirits that usually come from a higher dimension.
Yeah, a higher plane.
Because there is a difference. And I think those ones, when you start getting into the protective ones, those are the ones you usually see more as guardian angels, usually loved ones and family that will come down, um, as opposed to, I don't want to say like, but maybe the nigga down the street that passed away. I mean, you know, but yeah, it's incredibly fascinating.
Yeah.
I have a lot of firsthand experience now with the last couple of months, so I'd love to talk more about this on a future episode. And I even think we have an episode in which we maybe talk about who is God
I don't think we have
or what
that.
is God.
We should. And I think
should.
even what you're bringing up with that theory is really interesting because, man, when I was on a shroom, exact same thing you said is what I experienced. I
Oh
experienced
hell yeah!
a dissociation. Yeah, right? Bro, that shit was wild. It really changed my whole perception on life. And it's opened my mind up more to ghosts. I still don't necessarily believe for sure because I haven't seen it. And I pray to God I never do. But when I was in this, like, I saw in the conscious world, I'm here, I'm seeing you guys and everything, and then all of a sudden, my consciousness drifted behind me, like behind my eyes and everything, into another plane. And in this plane, there was light. There was a big ball of light, surrounded by darkness, but it was a stream coming from it. And so I went into it, and I'm in the stream, and it feels like you have all the answers to everything. It feels like you're comforted. It's like I thought to myself, is that God? Is that what we all come into, right? Are we like energy in this, like, is there just this whole plane of reality that we just miss, in which all of life, all of consciousness exists in, and then it grounds itself, kind of like electricity grounds itself into the ground or through wires,
Yeah.
through our physical, beings. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's super interesting concept though. So what got you interested for real into thinking like this? That's, I guess, the real big question for me.
Oh man, it was I mean, I can't say it was personal discovery, but it still is personal discovery. And to really get me thinking like this, I have to go into a whole nother topic and a whole nother show, which is talking about what is a spiritual awakening for $500. But no, it's definitely a much deeper concept than just saying spiritual in this. I think having a spiritual awakening is just, it's an event, it's a process, hellified, but just awakening up to who you truly are outside of just this physical incarnation. And so I can say that I had one last year. And from having that, it opened up this whole other realm, multiple realms of the possibility, of the possible, really. And through that, I've been on this unpurposefully quest to learn more, and in learning more, I experienced more, and to understand that certain things appear in your life, certain problems even appear in your life for you to experience. And sometimes for you to solve, depending on what it is, for you personally to solve. It's that level of responsibility that is attached to it. And even if that solving it is just changing your state of being, or changing the way that you're looking at it, or changing the way that you're doing it through looking at it from anger or trying to figure it out, to just go into a state of being, that could solve it. So it's really been throughout that I've been kind of on this whole metaphysical amusement park ride.
Okay. Well, hey guys,
Yeah.
if you guys want to see more episodes around metaphysics, put a comment down below. We would love to get more in depth in that. Like, he has some stories. Don't you got some stories?
Damn straight.
This nigga sitting on a gold mine. So if y'all want to hear about that, leave a comment below saying what's your ideas on some conspiracy theories.
Our cash app will be at Break the Mold
I was
2021.
about to say,
It will not be.
some money for them.
And drop a $5. Join our Patreon or OnlyFans.
No, I'm playing. But yeah, y'all, let us know if y'all would like to hear about the whole metaphysical thing. We want to get spiritual and talk about God. I believe that is a religion, a period, because I believe the whole thing behind the mythology is each culture's representation of the overarching God. So let us know what y'all would like us to talk about, because we only do this for y'all, to be honest. But now I believe we're at John.
Yes.
I know you have.
So mine's Mine's a little different, you know. Mine, it's more of something that's happening to us right now. So, mine's around the quote unquote either New World Order or Illuminati. I don't know if anybody.
Ooh, damn, man.
Yeah,
Let me get another sip.
Right? We smoke some weed, take a drink, because this shit's about to get wild.
Before you do this, I do want you to remember last time you tried to talk about the black market, what they did to you, right?
That's true. That's true.
So,
For y'all who don't know, we were doing some recordings.
Mid thought.
We've had some technical difficulties throughout that. So, well, we're going in, diving right in. So, as many of you guys probably have heard, if you're following anything about politics, Biden has said that we're entering a new world order, and he said that he wants America to be the standing of it. With that saying, everybody has a concept of the Illuminati, you know, and people running the strings in the music industry or stuff like that, and there probably is. But with this particular one, it has a name, and it's called the World Economic Forum. It is founded by a man named Klaus Schwab. So basically, the concept is
Very
this.
familiar.
Yeah, you've heard of it? Yeah. So the concept is this, right? A lot of wealthy people, Bill Gates, a lot of our politicians, George Soros, for some of those who may have heard him, Zuckerberg, all of them, all these people, every year they go to Davos, Switzerland. It's a little cool town, and they have these connection meetings, right? Everybody comes down. If you're a somebody or you want to be a somebody, you go there, you hobnob, you make connections. Now, out of having events like this, people might have, you know, these people have a lot of power. Let's be real. So they might have concepts. What are some ways that we can move forward in Western society? So the theory is stating that with this going on, these people have a concept of controlling the population and helping spread particular ideas. One of these ideas that is well known is the one, a quote, which says, "You will own nothing and you'll be happy." So with that, people ask, what does that really mean? And when are they implementing and how would they implement it? So one thing we saw over COVID, which was a great time, is when the World Economic Forum kind of hit their peak and kind of like public acknowledgement, was like home ownership. I mean, during COVID and all the other crazy shit that happened within this year, we saw a lot of people buying houses. And one of the biggest things of ownership that we have is real estate. If you want to get wealthy, if you want to have a good investment, everybody says buy real estate. But we're at this point where real estate is hard as fuck. It's very hard to buy, right? If any of you guys have been on the market and searching, you know that you might find a house for like $125,000, and you might end up paying $175,000 or $200,000, depending on where you're at. There's a few things that implicate this. First, a lot of cities in the United States are kind of deteriorating, and there's a lot of migration coming from it. So, like, if you've heard about New York or California, there is mass migration happening from those states. And a lot of these people are going to cheaper places. Because property over there is like for a small one-bedroom house is $1.3 million. I don't know about y'all, but I think that's crazy. When you can go to a place like St. Louis and get a house for $125,000, $75,000, you know, a steal in comparisons. So while these people are migrating, they're coming to these areas, they're buying up these houses, or trying to buy up these houses. It makes it harder for people in the current areas to afford it. And then on top of that, what drives these prices up is something called corporate buy-ins. So there's a company named BlackRock. Look this one up. It is the largest, what is it called? Financial institution. They hold $10 trillion worth of investments. If there's a business starting, BlackRock's investing in it, and they're investing big in it. They are the number one investing firm in the United States, actually on earth. Nothing compares but to them. So what they've been doing is they've had these subsidiary companies that are going out and also buying a lot of these properties. The end goal, rent them out. If the price of the house is being bought at an exorbitant price, where maybe you're paying $200,000 for a house that's worth $75,000, you're not going to make your money back. They know that. It's obvious. So what they do is they rent it out, preventing you from owning anything. Most people are renting. I think the average person probably listening to this is either living with your parents or renting a place. Very few people own a home ownership, especially for Gen Z, and it's becoming only harder. So that's the first thing that we saw going on into this whole buy nothing and be happy, right? The next thing we saw is during COVID, coin shortages. Tangible dollars start vaporizing, right? What's up with that, you know? Money used to have tangible meaning. It was either tied to gold or it's normally tied to gold, something of higher value. Now we have the US petrodollar, which, you know, it's not held by anything but the fact that it's easily traded. Now these are called fiat currencies. Either way, getting with that, we go to this point where getting cash and the value of cash becomes harder and harder to, materialize. So people are, having all our money digital. We're not having anything that's backed up by any value, which further incorporates us into the system of the United States or whatever we're dealing with. All this stuff is, again, helping prevent you from owning anything to really move on and have power in your own individual lives, right? To add on to it, we have inflation, which even makes it harder for you to have value to the dollar. Fun fact, 50% of all the money in circulation today was printed through COVID, a 2-year period of time. It was $15 trillion that was printed within that point in time. These are T's. These are ridiculous amounts of money, right? All that going back into it, is it makes it harder for us to have any equity and any force in our country. Then the next thing we see is everything's digital today, right? Anything you buy, most of the content we do, movies, TV shows, all of it's on a digital platform. You owning none of it. Even on this phone that you're probably watching it, I seriously doubt you own it. No, like really. Think about it. Are you paying a phone bill to pay off your phone? 9 times out of 10, you don't own it. And if you refuse to pay that phone bill, you best believe they're knocking on your door to get it. So we're at this point where we own nothing and we're happy. But really, are we just really slaves? Because it seems like, to me, they've put us subliminally in this kind of position where we have very little control over our lives. We have very little control of the resources and of the things that help build our nation or allow us to have power over our communities or our lives. And this has also allowed richer people who do have the funding, to create agendas and go forward with it. At least that's my perception of it. So
talk your talk.
Yeah, this is kind of even going even on bigger world stages, but some people are arguing what's going on with Russia. So I don't know if you guys know a hell of a lot about it, and we can actually have another podcast about this. But there has been a lot of corruption known between Trump and Biden with Ukraine. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but we can say that for sure, if you've heard about the Biden laptop scandal, it's about business dealings between the Ukraine and the Biden family. With gas in particular, natural gas, because Russia and Ukraine are one of the largest natural gas producers for Europe. But yeah, so with that going on, we have Russia invade, and Russia's trying to prevent and kick out the Western world power, New World Order, from taking over the entirety of the world. We're also seeing that with China. So it's like we're going with this clash of these very rich people trying to control the way, not just how we live as American people, but how we as Westerners live, and in the end goal, how people on Earth live and how we see what our culture is. I mean, if you think about it, you go to any country, let's say you go to Hawaii, well, that's the United States, but let's say you go to Hawaii, let's go to Canada, you go to Japan. One thing that you can see is you'll always see Western-based things. You'll see a McDonald's, you'll see a Popeyes, you'll see a lot of stores, like major name stores, Chanel and all that stuff, that are Western-based, created in the United States. There's everywhere. It's almost a formalization of what the world is in the image of Western society. All this being a part of the New World Order. For me, that's what I'm seeing. I don't know necessarily if it's conspiracy theory. People say it is because there's no concrete evidence. Even though if you guys want, you can check on the website. Check on YouTube. Check up and look up on YouTube, World Economic Forum. They have a page. They talk about all kinds of stuff. Another interesting thing they're talking about is biohacking. So with biohacking, not only are they trying to control how we live, there is a video on record talking about controlling how we evolve, how we develop, how we respond on our physical being. They talk about how we have the information and knowledge on like how program, how cells and genetics are the same thing, and they are similar. Once you understand the human genome, you can make a lot of changes to it and do whatever the hell you want. So they go into depth on what are some ways that they can do that. Now, get into real conspiracy theory territory right there. If you know anything about the COVID vaccine, it is a RNA vaccine, which means it genetically edits your genome.
Be careful, John.
So as we get deeper into this, we ask ourselves, what the fuck are they doing to us? What is it? What are they putting in our arms? What are they doing to the minds of our children, to the media and other things we listen to? And what are they doing even on our personal level in the ways we interact economically, socially? We're so divided in everything. Is this happenstance? Or could this all be a part of the new world order?
If I may chime in, I'm a big believer that media depicts what reality is. And for those that haven't watched, I suggest you do. It's going to take a lot of time, so understand it. But Star Wars. What do you mean by that, Cool? I will let you know. How the trilogy works, in the first 3 episodes, episode 1 through 3, there's a war that takes place, the clones versus the droid army. Only to find out the person that was behind this war was playing both ends against the middle. He created the war to create ultimate power. People, I believe this is a depiction of our reality. I'm a firm believer that at the pinnacle of the world, there are set rules. You have the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, they call it the Baphomet. No, I think that's a demon. There's one of them that begins with a B. There's this set group of intensely wealthy people who run everything, and to generate wealth, to generate a influence of a mind, just like in Star Wars. I'm going to create this war, and I'm going to indirectly but directly tell both sides how to play each piece, so it can tell this story, almost like wrestling. In wrestling, a lot of people say, they're being predetermined. The whole invasion arc in wrestling was planned out. I'm gonna tell this war, and I'm gonna have side A, side B. I'm gonna show on camera I'm on side A, but behind the scenes, I'm really dictating both ends, because what used to confuse me is, how do certain people, just like in Star Wars, how do people find out war-wise certain tactics that another opposing team is using? Well, they know because the person that's at the top that's running the whole thing. So, guys, if I want you to attack left, I want you to be vulnerable left for this particular point in time. I ain't gonna tell you why, but at this point, I want you to be here. Be here. So then, when they do attack, I want it to at least seem convincing. And in the whole first part of the trilogy of Star Wars, everybody was convinced that Emperor Palpatine was for the Republic. We need to band together until he was granted what? Ultimate powers, ultimate control. Once he was granted ultimate control, the true self of who Emperor Palpatine was came out. He was controlling both ends through 2 different personas, but he was controlling both ends, running the whole war, telling the narrative how he wanted to. And I'm not saying it's just about war. This is about how everything runs economically. I'm gonna make things more expensive, so now they have to depend on me. So either way, they're coming to me how I want them, when I want to. Now I'm controlling the narrative and the influence that I need for a particular point in time. I think that's a good ass theory, John. I'm behind you.
Yeah. And just like you said, make us dependent on them, so that if shit goes wrong, people are gonna say, "Let's bound together and come together and fight." No, we're gonna say,
exactly.
Hey governor, hey president, we need help. What do we do? I can't afford food. I can't afford gas. I need some subsidy. In the past, what people would do is they would get their pitchforks and their torches. They'd pull up on White House or pull up on the governor's house or whatever it was and say, "Hey, we need some change. This ain't working." Today, we've been told that what we do is we protest, or we put a picture on our profiles, and we make a tweet, do a little complaining, and hopefully the government will throw us a stimmy. Hopefully they give us some money. Hopefully they do some tax cuts. Maybe.
It is the worst form of power that you can have, because once again, it is purely existent and is reliant on the fear of people. It's keeping them in that state of fear and panic and ultimate reliance on an external factor or source outside of themselves, which is what they are trying their best to keep people from. Because once people see they don't need all this extra bullshit, especially government subsidies just to keep you in debt forever, they'll realize that we are much more powerful beings than the government would ever want to let you know. And so New World Order is just the newest way of maintaining power, status, and dominance, and keeping people in just a lower state of being.
Yeah, I agree. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So I guess I'll bring it out to the audience. We'll close this up. Audience, what's your thoughts? Which theory did you like the most? What do you think about if the world's flat or if there's spiritualism?
Make it a competition.
Which one of us was the better speaker? No. Or if you believe that we're in control.
I do have a cash prize.
Yeah, but we'll be throwing $15.
Free Heineken.
Right, good.
There you go.
15, 20 cent prize to whoever votes for the absolute winner.
With inflation, that's like a penny.
Right.
Sound off, guys. We're here today and always to tell you the truth, tell you our opinions, and break the mode of thinking. No longer do we have the opportunities of being controlled and slaves of what the system wants us, but to be individuals and awoken people to the new world.
Along with that, whatever theories you guys have, because there are more out there. We could be here for months straight just talking about the different theories that we have in our minds. But whatever theories you all have, let us know. If you want us to do a part 2, please let us know, because we have the ammunition. But let us know what y'all think, how y'all rocking with it. Let us know y'all theories, feed in. Let us know what you agree with, how y'all minds work, and then we'll let y'all know how our minds work.
Beautifully said. Awesome.
Bye, guys.
And I think we'll see you next time.
Mm-hmm.